Every time a preacher stands up here to preach or any place else, we never know whether we're going to hit a home run or strike out. It's always a gamble. We're human beings, and sometimes we can be a magnet to the gospel and bring people in to Jesus Christ. And other times we can say one little thing off the cuff or whatever and alienate so many people they never want to come back again. Paul was called by Jesus Christ, converted by Jesus Christ, and asked by Jesus Christ if he would be a preacher. And Paul said, I will be a preacher. I will do whatever you say. I will go to the Gentiles and I will announce to them that you are the Christ, the risen Christ, in whom we have our salvation. But Paul also was a human being. Not every sermon he gave was a home run. For example, the sermon he gave last week to the people in Athens, he struck out. You never, ever tell an intellectual Greek who has been trained in Stoic philosophy, probably read every book that was written, you don't go up to people like that and say, you're ignorant. You just don't win them that way. Paul goes up onto the Acropolis, up to the Areopagus, and he tells those Greeks, I know you've been worshiping all these silver and gold and marble statues in there. That's rubbish. Y'all used to be dumb, but now I'm here. I'm going to educate you. Barry, wouldn't that turn you off? Absolutely. Paul struck out last week. And in the next chapter, after he gave that sermon, the first verse says, and Paul left Athens. You think he left because he wanted to? I think he got run out on a rail. He's lucky to have made it out of Athens without getting stoned or pummeled or put in prison. And last week I said, how many letters in the New Testament that Paul wrote, how many were addressed to the Athenians? Norma, it's time to redeem yourself.
I told you last week, 13.
You know what? Once you mess up, you just keep on doing it. Okay, now I'm going to ask this again. How many letters in the New Testament that Paul wrote were written to the Athenians? See, she got it. Now, see, that's how you alienate somebody. Norma probably quit and go across the street to the Baptist church where the preacher's a lot nicer.
I did on Wednesday night.
Wasn't it good? Well, you see what I'm talking about, how easy it is to mess up. You know what? Mimi said, don't start. And you see, he's smart. But anyway, last week when he preached to the Athenians, he struck out. But listen to what he says to the Philippians. With this congregation, he hit a home run. Whatever he said, whatever he did there, they embraced him. They loved him. They listened to him. They recognized him as a person sent by God to preach the good news of Jesus Christ. They established a congregation, and the congregation flourished. And it supported Paul. It supported every ministry that it could that would proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ. They were, and Paul will tell you this, they were St. Paul's most favorite congregation. And it is the only congregation from which Paul took money. They insisted. Paul worked for nothing. He was what did Paul do as his, not his day job? What was his day job? You got that one right, Norma. Yes. He was a tent maker. And he made a lot of money making tents. He didn't need to take money from his congregation. I'm not Paul. I hope y'all don't ever think I would work for free. Really, that'd be alienation, wouldn't it? But anyway, Paul took money from them because they insisted that he take this money and use it however he wanted to spread the good news of the resurrection. And so Paul hits a home run with the Philippians, and he says one of the nicest things that you'll ever read in the Bible about a congregation. Paul says, I give thanks to my God every time I think of you. Did he love the Philippians or what? And did the Philippians love him or what? Well, I'm your pastor now, and it is my job now to tie the Scriptures into Holy Trinity, into our daily lives, so that when you go home today, you can take some good news that you can use for the week to come. Now, I was listening to the news this past week, and I kind of always halfway listen. But Charlie Rose said something that really got my attention. Something that I could hardly believe, John. He said that every day, 10,000 baby boomers retire. Do you believe that? That's a lot. Baby boomers are those people who were born between 1946 or 7 and 1964. And now they are all becoming that age of retirement. Are you a baby boomer? You're thinking about it, ain't you? You're not thinking about retirement? I am. I think most people except Mark Bessie, when they get to be in their 60s, start wondering about retirement. And they also wonder what they would do or say on their last day at work. And as a person who is in his 60s, I'm a baby boomer, I've always thought, when I gave my last sermon, what would I say? Whoa! When I didn't care about my Christmas bonus, when I didn't care about whether you fired me or not, because I'm going to be leaving right after the service, if I really didn't care what you thought about what I had to say, what would that sermon be like? I asked this Delta pilot last night. He was sitting over here. And I said, you know what you ought to do the last day you work at Delta? Let the people get on the plane thinking they're going to Phoenix and take them to Bangor. Bangor, Maine. And his wife says, Pastor, don't give him any ideas. But wouldn't that be neat, your last flight, John, to have all these people on the plane ready to go to the warm Phoenix, Arizona, and then you land and you're in Bangor, Maine? Your boss calls you from Delta. Well, is Delta located here? Okay. Your boss calls you and says, John, what happened? And all you say, the GPS must have gone out. And I'm thinking, what would I do for my last sermon? Would I get on people who don't pay attention that the service starts during the summer at 10:30? Look how many people walked in here thinking it was at 11. Y'all know better than that. Did you read anything? Now, see, I wouldn't say something like that now. I would wait until it was about my last sermon. However, whenever the day does come, yes, I'm for real. We've got visitors here today. I hope you do come back. We're glad to have you. We have a good time here. We really do. I am so fortunate to have had as the text today from St. Paul, because now I don't have to worry about what I would say during my last sermon. He wrote my last sermon for me, And I am dead serious when I say this. Every time I think of you, Holy Trinity, I do give thanks to my God. I always pray for you, and I make my request with a heart full of joy, because you have been my partners in spreading the good news about Christ from the time you first heard it until now. And I am sure that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it is finally finished on that day when Christ Jesus comes back again. It is right that I should feel as I do about all of you, for you have a very special place in my heart. We have shared together the blessings of God, both when I was in prison, and let me substitute prison there for when Ginger and I and Aaron for 3 years walked through the valley of the shadow of death. You were with me. You were with Ginger. And you were with Aaron. And the only thing we felt from the members of Holy Trinity was your arms around us and your promise that we together would get through this. And we did. And when I was out defending the truth and telling others the good news, God knows how much I love you, and I long for you with tender compassion of Jesus Christ. I pray that your love for each other will overflow more and more. And I promise to all the visitors here today, this congregation authentically loves one another. You can hear it in the fellowship hall. You can see it when somebody gets sick or it has a need. I have never been in a congregation that loved each other more than you do for one another and for your pastor. And so I pray that your love for each other will continue and that you will keep on growing in your knowledge and understanding. For I want you to understand what really matters, and you know what really matters. What really matters is that we proclaim Christ crucified and that you share that Christ and his love when we leave this facility. For I want you to understand that that is what really matters, so that you may live pure and blameless lives until Christ returns. Paul hit a home run with the Philippians. And when I was called to be your pastor in this congregation over 20 years ago, there's no feeling better than that. It's almost as if I won the lottery for congregations. And so that you have just heard my retirement speech. The only difference is I ain't retiring yet. So let's stand.